Good morning, Infantino.
Love you much. How you doing?
Wonderful. How are you this morning?
Oh, I am doing well. I really enjoyed you yesterday.
Thank you. I enjoy you always.
Oh, it was just too a little too quick. I wanted more details. I want more details. I want more details. Well, I can get them this morning. So there is. Oh wow. Okay. So when do you so did you get a count on your town hall?
Yeah, both of them came in like 13,700.
From what I understand, you got really 15,000 at the first
Okay.
one. Oh yeah, the final numbers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you got yeah, you're getting a lot of people. So people want to know what is going on, honey. Particularly since now these hits are getting real, right? 'Cause
Oh, yes.
you know what? I think people really only thought they were going to hit in Washington,
Yeah.
and watching these people walking out of these offices in tears is just heartbreaking. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear what
Oh, talk to the congressman. You talk to him.
I want to get your viewpoint on that whole White House with Zelensky.
Oh, sure. It
Some
was
people say it was
unbelievable.
staged.
Uh, yep. I'll answer that on the air so we get there one time.
Uh huh. What a mess. There's, there's a lot going on.
I still see so many people. Well, especially this one girl in Chicago who defends Trump like she know him for real.
Is this? Of course, she's black, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. They take their boy.
every day she defends him.
They go hard in the paint. I'm like, okay. I just sent you these numbers. We want to get Dr. Arnold up,
You
but
want to know
so he can hear the congressman, so he can hear him.
now?
And I just get sent it to you by text.
I don't have it yet.
Okay. Hey y'all, like and share, like and share, like and share. Jeremy, thank you for this. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I already had that.
Oh, okay, because yeah.
I still haven't received a text about it.
Oh, you haven't here.
No, I got his number.
Okay, I'll give you these others so you can have this. Here, hon.
Wait, we're coming up. I get it.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
break.
Hello.
Good morning, Dr. Arnold.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good. This is Keep Hope Alive. And your lucky win was Santita Jackson. Hold on, please.
Okay. So I'm going to use audio or is it video?
This is audio. This audio.
This audio. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Hmm. The iconic Roberta Flack. First time that the pop record of the year was won by the same artist in consecutive years. She did that. She achieved that feat, and it stood for Nearly 30 years. The iconic Roberta Flack, indeed, she was on the cover of Time magazine 50 years ago as really the emblem of black pop. They were saying that black pop has been invented and she is at the center of it all. Classically trained musician, uh, got a full scholarship to Howard University at the tender age of 13, went at 15 because her parents said, I just can't bear sending you to college at 13. And she never looked back, became a teacher, and then the whole world got to know her as Roberta Flack with this unique style. Wow. Roberta Flack, Angie Stone, Jerry Butler, it's just a whole lot. But oh, the magnificent bodies of work that they've left with us. We should all do something as magnificent in our own way. Congressman Jonathan Jackson, help us to understand what we are seeing. The GOP and the Trump administration have reassured us that there would be no cuts to Social Security. And then we see that half the workforce and Social Security is set to be cut. There would be no cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. And yet, something has happened. Congressman Jackson, what is going on?
Representatives, and the vote was on House Bill 14 regarding the Trump tax cut and budget plan. So this was a bill that was going to, after it leaves the House floor, Speaker Johnson brought it to the floor. It was voted along party lines 217 to 215. One Republican Congressman Massey out of Kentucky voted against the bill, only one, and they gave us 215 to 217. So therefore it passed. And now it goes to the Energy and Commerce Department. There are 15 cabinet positions, one of which is Energy and Commerce, founded 1795. Energy and Commerce has the broadest jurisdiction. It has telecommunications, it has healthcare, it has Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. It covers so many things in it. And they've been instructed to find $880 billion to cut. So by definition, from the bill leaving the floor going to the committee, that committee has to find in its budget. It didn't go to the Defense Department. It didn't necessarily go to the SNAP department, to the Agriculture Department. It went to that department. Well, if you add it all up, if you remove all the telecommunications and everything, that would equal $220 billion. Where does the other $660 billion come from? So it was very disingenuous. And when they give you the language, we're not cutting Social Security. By definition, you put in their department to cut it. And so as a result, when we get back to Washington, that's where the subcommittees start. And this comes to a head on March 14th. March 14th is the deadline by which we have to go back and raise the debt ceiling. His goal is to pass on $4.5 trillion, trillion with a T, in cuts in tax cuts, and he wants to extend the 2017 tax plan, which favored 87% of that favored the top 1%. Planes, boats, cars, all kind of things the richest people can now write off, having deductions. And so most people never felt those tax cuts. He's trying to balance the budget off the back of the most needy, the poor, the seniors, people's health care. It's quite startling.
We're talking with Congressman Jonathan Jackson from the 1st Congressional District of Illinois about the cuts. I mean, I don't know if people really, well, we took the administration and we took the GOP at their word. Well, certainly that's all you have to go on. That's what they've been telling you, that there would be no cuts to Social Security. There would be no cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. How does that happen? I mean, just tell me. I mean, how would, because I guess as a congressperson, you have to really know how all of these departments are constructed and what's in it. How do you know what to look for?
25 in the $880 billion cut to the budget.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, how do you even know? Because I would, just as a layperson, I would say top line. Oh, I don't see Social Security on here. I don't see Medicare. I don't see Medicaid on here. But you're saying, no, no, no. You need to dig down and find out what these departments do, what's contained, right?
Like, go to the Energy and Commerce site and see what is their jurisdiction. You can see who the members are that are on it. And when he puts that mandate on them, they cleverly hide the name to bury it because people aren't going to go to the second, third, let alone the fifth question. And people say no in the Yahoo and the Apple News and Google News. No, that was just an alert. They said they're not going. That's not true. And the other part is, it's either anything that's done in a hurry. Everything I bought in a hurry has always been bad. I mean, I just don't have an experience of anything good coming out of in a hurry. Why the rush? People need to ask themselves, what is the rush? What exactly is he doing? If we have to, we all stand against waste. We all stand against abuse. We want to make sure government is operating efficiently. People are getting their money. Nothing is being taken advantage of. So why doesn't he go before the Congress and before the United States Senator and say, this is my plan. Let's have a body of inspector generals so we can have checks and balances. That's how our government is set up. Why are you firing the inspector generals? Why are you in such a hurry to get through all of this at a blinding speed? This is what Steve Bannon described as muzzle velocity. Like, this is the bullet coming out of a barrel so fast. He says, give them so many things that they get confused on what it is they have to focus on. So he's created all these emergencies at the same time that he's pushing through his cabinet positions and he's testing the courts, challenging what jurisdiction he has, telling the senator from Maine, the governor from Maine, I am the federal government. I am the law. You do it this way, you're not going to get any federal money. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's the job of the United States Senate and the Congress. That's the House of Representatives law rule. The budgets that he's cutting now were approved in the 118th Congress. That was from 2 years ago. The money is being spent now. That's not his job to stop and freeze funds that have already been appropriated by the United States House of Representatives. That's Article 1 on what is our mandate. But he's getting more pushback now from the federal judiciary on saying, yo, slow down. Now, if he wants to balance the budget and look for waste, fraud, and abuse, why don't you hire the economists, the accountants, and we go through hearings and find this. Why are you hiring hackers, 19, 20, 22, 26-year-olds that are going like thieves in these departments and sending out emails in the middle of the night? I mean, it lacks transparency. This isn't about a budget cut. This is about a land grab. This is about Elon Musk getting data. This is about pushing through tax breaks to the rich, extending his 2017 tax package. He has to do it up front before people find out. That's why I'm encouraging people. People have asked me, what can they do? And I'm telling them, call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. You don't have to call your Democratic congressman or senator. They're voting with you. Call any Republican. I know you don't have to live in their district. You call a Republican. These are federal officials that are voting on the federal budget. Please call them. They do feel the heat. And ask your representative, Republican, give you an in-person town hall. Now there's a pushback where the administration has asked Republicans to slow down on the town hall. And they're also saying that's like negative press that they're not pleased with. They're also saying that these were all staged press conferences that the left and the Democrats were busing people in. Not true. So this is being done totally totally haphazard and totally unlawfully. This is not the president's money to spend.
Congressman Jackson, help me. The Department of Defense is the largest government agency by far. Their budget is nearly $1 trillion. They have failed 7 consecutive audits. And yet, on this list of 22 agencies uh, where they're looking for cuts, they're ranked 16. How does that work?
That what do they say, 10% across the board, or potentially 15%? No, the Pentagon has failed 8 audits. No one's harping on waste, fraud, and abuse. It touches 3.5 million people. When they put this into the area that has what they're saying is the most discretionary spending, they want to see people that are receiving food assistance have more work. There's already work requirements on the food assistance. And when you play with these numbers, as you saw in Kentucky on the food eligibility SNAP programs, it's not that anytime they raise these eligibility issues and change the program, fewer people are eligible. And it's not because they're been fed. Fewer people are eligible because of the paper requirements. People run out of time to fill out all the paperwork, so therefore they get disqualified, if you will, because of themselves. It's mean. It's very intentional to weed people off the program. So yes, they're coming after supplemental nutritional and assistance program. I'm on the ag department that oversees the food, and they want $30 billion, which tax the $2 per day per meal that 41 million people are entitled to. So they want cuts out of that. They said there's too much waste, fraud, and abuse. And they want the cuts out of the Social Security and the Medicaid. It started with Medicaid. They don't want to tell you about Medicare. Well, it's an insurance program. Continue. If you were automobile insurance, the reason they tell you everyone has to have automobile insurance is because all drivers have to be in the pool, whether you get hit or you hit someone. And from there, you can get your different levels of deduction. But everybody has to be in to make the insurance work. Same thing with healthcare. Anyone can get sick, whether you catch the disease or you're spreading the disease, the virus, or whatever. We're all actually healthcare objects or beings at the end of the day. We're all going to need some healthcare some way or another. At certain ages, you're going to need it more. At other ages, you're going to need it less. But you have to be in. When you start kicking people out of the program, it becomes insolvent because of the too few people that are paying into it. The children don't need it as much as the older people. But in order to sustain the older people, you have to have the younger people that don't need the health insurance as much paying in. I was talking with a staffer of mine the other day, and I asked him when the last time he went to the doctor. He says, about a year and a half ago. And I'm like, really? And then it just occurred to me, why would he go to the doctor? He's healthy. He's perfectly fine. He's 22 years old. But when you get older, you need regular medication. But he has to pay into the insurance body to offset seniors that are consuming more of the insurance funds.
You're right. As you get older, you have to go to the doctor. You absolutely need your health care. It, this is just amazing, though. I mean, because now, these town hall meetings, Renee Criswell points out that there was a town hall meeting in Idaho where they dragged a doctor out of the meeting because she was speaking out about these awful policies that are being carried out. And you're seeing Republicans who are they're being attacked. Oh, should I say that, or they're being questioned very harshly about what's happening because people are losing their jobs, where they live. And yet the Republicans are still voting party line for these cuts. What's the deal? I mean, who are they? They're not, it's clear they're not listening to their constituents, Congressman.
threats and intimidation that's going on now, and even danger. Senator Tillis out of North Carolina spoke very eloquently and angrily regarding President Trump's reversal and turn on Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. And at the end of the 118th Congress in January, it had reported like some of the most death threats and swatting threats, over 9,000 that were called in, that the government had been investigating. Well, now you can see the effects, part two of January 6th. On January 20th, when President Trump was sworn in, on that day, and he signed those executive orders. One was pardoning those that were part of the insurrection for January 6th. People that were cop killers and violently came to the Capitol on the day of the transfer of power to beat those officers to try to overturn an election. Officers were being questioned afterwards when they went through the video. Why were you defending yourself, fighting back with an open fist, hitting people, those insurrectionists that were hitting you with sticks and clubs and poles? The officers were not supposed to even defend themselves.
What?
I mean, it's very cruel. On January 20th, when he signed that pardon for those officers, for those insurrectionists, by January 21st, the Tuesday at noontime, you could see some of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers in the chamber sitting in the visitors' galleries. So for every one person that came, you better believe there's 100, if not 1,000 people that come from where they come from, that are in those districts that are threatening and also intimidating these lawmakers. That's why this is coming down straight to party line. How can you justify a senator from Iowa that's been in the military, that was a victim of sexual assault, voting for someone like Pete Hegseth, the now Secretary of Defense, who's been accused of sexual assault, who's now heading the government, the Department of Defense? How can you explain a United States senator that's a medical doctor from Louisiana that knows the benefits of vaccinations, vote for a senator, for a RFK Jr., who's not a medical doctor, who has some wild theories? I mean, how can you explain these things? That's it. It's threats and intimidation that's happening. And my colleague, Congressman Swalwell out of California, is sharing that same thought as well on threats and intimidation, on why these nominations and these votes are going through the way they are.
The intimidation, no one's even thinking about that. So, I mean, the death threats against members of Congress, both houses, have been amped up. I've got about 30 seconds, yes?
The two people, they're giving me credible death threats that are jailed. It's happening to everyone. So we pray for all the elected officials. Even if we disagree, we shouldn't be threatened.
Hey, everybody, call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Let's talk about what's happening in Washington, but what's happening in your cities, in your towns, in your hamlets. These DOGE cuts are real. These Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, and Social Security cuts are real, and we are about to feel it all. In the meantime, the prices are through the roof. Can you afford eggs? No one's been talking about that. And it's not happening. The price cuts on food have not happened. People were looking for some relief, and they haven't gotten it. Let's talk about this. I want to hear your thoughts and your experiences here on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson, talking with Congressman Jonathan Jackson from the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. Back in just a moment.
Embarrassed by the crowd, I felt he found my letters and read each one out loud. I prayed that he would finish, but he just...
Your opinion counts. 1-866.
Wow.
Reverend Yeri and Dr. Verholden.
Oh,
When are they coming on?
you can bring them on now. Do we have Dr. Arnold there?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Arnold,
Oh, hi.
I've got your dear friend Congressman Jackson. He's not going to be with us much longer, but Dr. Arnold, Jonathan, Congressman, we've got Dr. Arnold here.
My main man. Hey, brother, Dr. Arnold, Dr. Colonel, Dr. Arnold.
It was great waking up this morning to get all that with this laying out.
Mm.
I was really good talk.
Well, I appreciate you, man.
This is awful. Are we going to be able to buy any eggs? But you know what? I was talking to Dr. Arnold last night, and he said, okay, we're able to get chickens, but no one can get eggs. Can you explain that to me, Congressman? Huh?
Yeah, apparently there are two different systems on the birds that are laying eggs. There's a different system than the birds they raise to sell as whole fryers.
Mm. This is too much.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail.
Okay.
And they're selling those fryers to people who think they're going to have a bird that lays eggs.
You know, you are terrible. This is so crazy. Congressman, you have to leave shortly. Yes.
No.
Oh, okay. I know that Dr. Arnold and Reverend Dr. Urie's here too.
No,
Hello.
Oh, he's not. Oh,
good morning, Dr. Verholden.
oh, Doctor
Hi, good morning.
Congressman, I want you to meet
Hold on for a
my
second.
dear friend who you've met, Dr. Arnold. She's the former dean of global public health at NYU. She's a professor of epidemiology. Brilliant. And she's someone who you should absolutely know. She's going to come down to Selma, but they wanted to listen in to what you were saying. But she does global public health. And
great.
Stand by. Here we are. Two giants. Wow. The duets they're having right now.
Keep it going.
Both Howardites. Hello. Absolutely. Donnie Hathaway. The great Donnie Hathaway, the great Roberta Flack. She made her transition this week. Angie Stone made her transition yesterday. Whew. Boy, oh boy. That's a lot. It's a lot. But they've left us with a lot. Now, we love you, Iceman Jerry Butler. It's been quite a moment. Quite a moment. As we're watching these cuts, we've been talking with Congressman Jonathan Jackson from the 1st Congressional District of Illinois, and we're joined by the former director of our Illinois Department of Public Health, Colonel, that's right, and Dr. and another Howardite. We're having a Howard Day. I love it. Keep hope alive. And that's right. This is Dr. Damon Arnold, of course, and he just continued to work in so many different spaces in the healthcare space, and we're joined by a world-renowned research scientist and epidemiologist. She's a professor of epidemiology at NYU now, but she is the former dean of global public health there. Came out of Michigan State. She was an associate dean of at the medical school, had full scholarship from her undergraduate to her doctorate work at Johns Hopkins. Brilliant young woman. Dr. Deborah Verholden, we're so glad to have you both join Congressman Jackson.
And Santina, you also have Reverend Dr. Tadia.
Oh, before we catching him before he goes to preach this morning. There's a whole lot. And Congressman Jackson has really been laying out this case to us about where these cuts are coming from, and they are really coming. I mean, Congressman, before I pivot to some of these experts who will pour into you what they're seeing, I mean, how do you think this is going to play out politically and personally? I mean, people losing or getting cuts to Social Security, having half the work staff cut. Which, I mean, will checks be late? Will you be able to get questions answered? I can't even fathom what this. I mean, I can't imagine people getting cuts to Medicaid and Medicare and SNAP. It's already not enough.
Spoke with some of my Republican colleagues, and I go to the bipartisan prayer breakfast, and I'm like, and people seem ordinarily sane. They can make good judgment. I'm like, ask them, how exactly are these cuts going to not affect Medicaid, and how do you avoid this pain? And one person tells me, Johnson, it'll be difficult for a month or two, but people will find new jobs. And also, the federal qualified health centers, they won't be touched. And so people will still be able to get their health care. And I'm like, looking at them like, are you for real? Of course it's going to touch it. So they don't want to believe that. Second person I asked, I said, well, where are you getting your numbers from just so that we can get on the same page? And a very prominent Republican member told me, you can just Google it. I mean, those numbers are out there. I'm trying to get on the same page just to figure out, we can disagree on policy. What about the numbers and what are you looking at? They're like snowballing it and they're like giving it a fake. It's not there, Santita. By definition, the federal qualified health centers are going to shudder and hurt. Put it this way, 41% of all the babies born in the United States of America come through Medicaid. After the Lord in heaven gives us all the great things in nature, 41% are touched by the Medicaid dollars. And you can't keep Medicare whole and solvent if you don't have Medicaid. And if you're looking at the spend in most of the states, that's going through Medicaid. It's a matching program. So no, they're not being honest with the American people. And you know how you used to hear about in the 70s and the 60s, an economist? Who are the economists that are weighing in? Who are the third parties that we can all trust? No, they've got the guy vote over budget, over management and budget, who comes out of Project 2025. This is ideologically driven. And you keep hearing the term, Elon Musk, he's the wealthiest man on earth. He's a genius. What is so genius about him? Why can't he dress up and come sit down and go before the United States Senate and House and let us do our job so we can talk to him? Like, what are you doing? So this is held without any accountability, Santita. And this is, I guess the point of it is cruelty. And people have to keep this in mind. This is all so that we can pass on a $4.5 trillion tax cut. We're not talking about building up these institutions to help people. We're talking about how do you transfer money to wealthy people. It's cruel, Santita.
And transfer the money to them for what? Why?
The Commerce Department, another wealthy individual in the Trump administration, thinks the federal minimum wage is $7.25, $7.50. They ought to stay there. I mean, if you want to get to the annual wage, just double the hourly wage. I mean, how can you live on $15,000 a year? How can you live in today's economy on hardly $30,000 a year? So we have to talk about raising wages, and we also have to talk about people that have made the most should be willing to pay their fair share of taxes, close the tax loopholes. Discussion that we should have how the tax game is played.
You know what, Dr. Arnold, you headed the public health system here, and then I'm going to hear from you, Dr. Deborah Holden, and then you Reverend Dr. Yeary. You headed the public health care system here in the state of Illinois, did a fantastic job. Colonel, you have worked everywhere. When you hear about these cuts, what do you see and what do you fear?
Thank you, Congressman Jackson, for doing a wonderful job. Luckily, I'm in Congressional District 1 in Illinois. However, as someone I voted for that is doing a great job, so I'm just really happy to have you. But, you know, in 1965, they added through Title 19 to the Social Security Act, and this is what really created Medicaid in our country. It was under Lyndon B. Johnson's administration. So it was really supposed to be providing matching funds from the federal level to states to enable them to really provide medical assistance to people who were at about 38% of the federal poverty line. So there was an eligibility requirement. But there's a really deep message that needs to come out about cutting Medicaid. One is that Medicaid also covers the benefits that Medicare does not cover for those people who are elderly, who are in long-term care. So it actually supplements Medicare as well. But it also provides vaccinations for children. And we're now looking at the measles outbreak in 4 states now, started in Texas, dipped over into New Mexico. It also covers people with disabilities who need that funding in order to be able to survive. And they're talking about making work requirements for this. They're not even thinking about, well, if someone is 67 years old or 97 and they're dual eligible for Medicare and Medicaid, they have to go back to work and they may be disabled. It's really poorly thought out. And I think Congressman Jackson is exactly right. They are going at light speed, just like they did with firing people from nuclear facilities oversight, just as they did with firing people from the IRS, that some of them have to bring back now. And not even finding some of the employees they need to bring back. And 30% of the people who are federal employees are veterans, something near and dear to my heart. But people have been fired while they've been on deployments overseas, which is against the law. It's against federal law for them to fire someone who is a veteran, who is deployed defending the nation. This is something that they need to get a grip on, because they have created a Frankenstein, a Trumpenstein monster that is going through and causing havoc. Elon Musk is at will, and this is having a devastating impact. Also, one of the things that people don't realize, and they don't really associate it with it, but Medicaid also, through multiple studies, has been shown to decrease criminal activity by giving money to families so they can stabilize themselves and the kids can have a better environment to grow up in. So it's devastating impacts in multiple dimensions. And I'll leave it there so, you have other guests who are going to speak as well.
Well, I mean, I always try to get the smartest people in the room. I am not, and that's why you are here. And we want to hear more from you, Dr. Arnold. Dr. Deborah Furr-Holden, as an epidemiologist, you do what, and how do you see public health and how these cuts will affect it?
Ways that will make your head spin, but it's important, right? So you need to understand the extent of the problem, what's needed, who's impacted by these types of changes. It's unfortunate because this kind of sledgehammer approach, it's like, I'm a parent, and I've had people give me parenting advice and things like that makes absolutely no sense. It sounds good in theory, but in practice, it doesn't make sense. And I always say, do you have any children? And then I find out that they're giving me some advice from a book or something like that. That is what this feels like. If it's not that, if they are actually informed, let's look at who's going to be impacted. The biggest impact is going to be felt by children, especially by children living in poverty, by the elderly, and by the poor, and the disabled. Those 4 groups: people living in poverty, the elderly, children, and the disabled. That will then shift the burden if you don't want that effect to be felt in this already marginalized group to the state. So we're not solving a problem. We're just pushing the problem over to the states. And if they can't solve it, we've basically said that hierarchy of value on human life, it's become really clear who this administration is less concerned about.
How does that impact all of the rest of us in terms of our public health?
Perspective, you know, I stand and I say that equity matters. There's an actual business case for equity. It doesn't actually serve the overall population to leave big groups of people behind, whether they be children or elderly or the poor or like that. The costs end up getting moved around. As somebody mentioned earlier, there's real data. The evidence are clear. When you cut these kind of resources, people have to resort to what they have to resort to in order to survive. And so criminality goes up, homelessness goes up, all of those things. And then some other program has to bear the cost associated with a cut over here. Again, we're just moving the problem around. The problem, I think, is the general notion that we could be more effective or we could be more efficient with our spending. I hear people talk a lot about Medicaid fraud. The problem isn't Medicaid fraud. The problem is fraud in the healthcare system overall. Medicare is no different, and the extent of fraud that you see in Medicaid is very similar to the extent of fraud that you see in private insurance programs. So there are real problems that we could address, but just bringing this sledgehammer, we're not actually solving a problem. We're just moving the problem around and leaving already marginalized populations behind. And each of us, no matter what group you fall in, are going to end up paying costs for that.
Reverend Dr. Yeary, as you speak with your congregation and so many and your clients, you are a practicing attorney as well. What are you hearing? Because I want Congressman Jackson to be able to take this back to, he's gathering information because he and of course Congressman Cleo Fields have co-founded the DEI caucus in the House of Representatives. And, we're going to connect all of this up shortly. Reverend Dr. Yeary.
And your guest, hearing a lot of frustration, a lot of concern, a lot of anxiety because folks really don't know what's coming out of this administration. What we hear is that there's this attack on regular people. And when you have a number of retirees and seniors in your congregation, like many of us do, it is very concerning. They've worked all their lives. In many instances, they've served in public jobs and given the best of who they are to help the rest of us. Now, at the time that they need to be acknowledged and given what they've worked for, they find themselves really defending themselves from their own government. And so it's quite a precarious situation in which they find themselves. The truth of the matter is this is a hostility that many times we've heard reverends say to us that there's really an attack on poor people. Poverty is a condition. It's not a color. When you don't have enough resource to be able to affirm your human dignity, just your ability to try to make it from one day to another, take care of your family, meet your basic needs, to the exclusive entitlement of a class of people that control more than half of the wealth, 1% control more than the rest of the 99%. It's a whole problem. And because we've had a math problem for so long, you now have an administration that believes it is entitled. It's entitled in terms of how it treats people. It's entitled to just arbitrarily come in and put federal employees at risk, fearing for their jobs, fearing for how they're going to take care of their families. And what you will eventually see is that if this administration is able to go unchecked, it's going to totally disrupt the economy. People are going to lose their homes. Foreclosures are going to go up. The losses on bank balance sheets will be increased. And you're going to see probably the beginning of a significant downturn economically. And so when the congressman asks, which economists are you talking to? They're talking to the ones they see in the mirror. They went to, Me, Myself, and I University. It's an idea they came up with in the middle of the night. And then they come up and they decide they want to try it on everybody else and see what the response is. And so from a pastor's perspective, there's a great deal of concern in the community, a great deal of concern in the congregation, and it's reflective of a concern about the hostility that's coming from the current administration.
Congressman Jackson, is this, where are we going to go from here? I've got about a minute. I mean, because the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, as our father's been saying down through the years. But now there's this explosion of not just billionaires, but super billionaires who are on track to become trillionaires. And yet the working class people we're bone on bone in America. You're going to have the very rich and the very poor. The middle class is being eliminated. I mean, what will happen socially with that?
And epidemiologists that can tell you the disease and also public health, a public health director, administrator, a veteran, a colonel, and also to have a minister, lawyer, as in Reverend Todd Yeary. This is really theological issues, Conchita. Why are you cutting taxes off the back of poor people? Why are you cutting taxes off the back of those that are sick? Why are you cutting taxes off of those that are most vulnerable? Why are you cutting taxes for those that are most in need? So if you talk about the poor, the dispossessed, the hungry, you're cutting taxes at the expense of feeding, housing, and giving health care to those in need. That's why my mind is baffled when I see some of the members of the Congress, and I want to think that they're normal. So what's this echo chamber you're in that's wrong that would lead you down this immoral path to give more money to those and they call themselves Christian nationalists, which is a topic that I'd love to weigh in on with Reverend Yeary sometime soon. This is theologically driven in Capitol Hill, is the last point I'd like for people to know. These are perps that you're hearing white nationalism echoing through those halls. You're hearing Christian nationalism echoing through those halls. And it's a moral crisis that we're facing right now.
Congressman Jonathan Jackson, 1st Congressional District, and a tremendous array of guests. Let's talk at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. How are these cuts impacting you? Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, Social Security. What will you do when your check gets smaller? When you have fewer options for your health care, for your social safety net? Let's talk about it here on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Sandita Jackson, along with my wingman, Jeremy Geiger. Back in just a moment.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse
Congressman
Jackson right here on Keep Hope Alive.
Oh, is he on?
Why pay more for prescriptions?
Congressman?
Stop overpaying and start saving with
Did he go?
It's easy. Find your prescription on singlecare.com. Show the coupon at the pharmacy and start saving.
Is he still? Congressman? Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Is there anything Democrats can do? That's what some people are asking on the line. And thank you, Lynn Marie.
Thank you, Miss Marie. Yeah, Sabina, call that Senate number. That annoys them to death. That's 202-224-3121. Unfortunately, elections have consequences. You gave this man, an insurrectionist, another chance to get into the House. This all could have been avoided. A, it would come out in our numbers, and B, and Mitch McConnell put him up on impeachment charges for insurrection. The founders of the country were very clear. Don't give an insurrectionist a second bite at the apple. They'll know all the damage they can do.
Well, here we are.
So now he knows this is the game plan. One document is 920 pages in Project 2025 outlining. Another is 922 giving you its implementation over his former management and budget director. So, yes, no, it's a lot of pain that's coming. And now they should continue to do the town halls. But in the meantime, you can call their senators. They don't want to take these calls. They're feeling the heat.
Should there be marches Do you think?
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's going to start happening. I'm going to call Move On and some of the other people. But people are going to have to come out and flood these public squares. Matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned that. We recommend we have one before the March 14th budget deadline.
Oh, Congressman, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah, Congressman, I'm with you.
yeah.
I'm going to be in Montgomery this weekend. Let me figure out, we do one in D.C. and then people should do one locally. We're in session for the next 2 weeks.
I would also take a film crew and interview folks in Appalachia, in the Mississippi Delta, in the Deep South, in these poor pockets, in these red states, where they are attempting these cuts and start personalizing these stories. And when that then forces them to confront the reality of the harm they're doing to folks with names and faces, then the marches will actually have the more devastating effect. We've got to connect those two dots. Many times the marches are one and done, but if you can get these stories and play them over and over and over again and get folks to say, that's me too, then that will translate into concern about self-preservation, because an election is coming up next year.
But you know,
hallelujah.
But you know, the Democrats have to have some people who sell this thing, Jonathan. Congressman, excuse me, slipping.
Oh, tell me about it. I'll tell you about that. But we've got to take over this, get involved in the religious conversation. This is a matter of their religion. This is like their Christianity, wealth, taxation, the balancing off of the poor. I mean, some people in our faith are saying, I separate church and religion. No, they're 100% church and religion. I mean, he's creating his faith office. He's got the evangelicals. I mean, they're teaching their congregants day in and day out.
They are doing that.
This message.
20 seconds.
I see you saw yikes. Yep.
Yeah, one of the things too, Congressman, is that
hold on. We're coming on for 1 minute, and then I'm going right out to break. What, at 58:26?
Yep. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody, call us at 866-594-HOPE. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We are talking about these cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, Social Security, coming to you very, very soon. And I hope that you'll meet us at Operation Push every Saturday morning. Congressman Jackson is there every Saturday that he can be there, giving us the latest updates at our Saturday morning forum. We're almost 60 years in on that, starting at 10 a.m. Get there about 9:30 or so. It's getting really, really crowded because people really, really want to talk and need to talk and act on what's happening here, as he has instructed us to do. Call the Republicans at 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Thank you for listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
Congressman?
Yeah, babe.
I love you. You saw what I sent you. Yikes.
Oh, yeah. Crazy.
But you see, they're not talking about that. But this stuff is real out here.
Congressman,
my brother,
get a loop of I am somebody. When Rev says I am somebody, I may be poor, but I am somebody. Just those two clips. And put the faces and the images that are going to be put upon by this budget and start passing around the country.
What should the average everyday person do or prepare for, with all these potential cuts on everything coming down? Just what can an everyday person do to prepare themselves?
Hold on. Congressman?
Yes.
You're leaving just very quickly. I'm going to give you my opening remarks. We have someone who didn't want to be on air, but she wants to know what can the average person do. And I'm going to give that to you, and then you go.
Okay.
The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily the views of
Congressman, one thing too is that, being a veteran, a lot of veterans.
No, Bernadette, you
All
can't.
right, thank you.
So, okay, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Stand by.
4673. And now, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Is my king, is my one. Yes, he's my father. Yes, he's my son. I can talk to him, cause he understands everything I go through and everything I am. He's my support system. I can't live without him. The best thing since sliced bread is his kiss, his hugs, his lips, his touch. And I just want the whole world to know about my black brother. I love you, and I'll never try to hurt you. I want you to know that I'm here for you forever.
Oh, I love you, Angie Stone. May you rest in power and peace. Whew. So much that she has done. Made her transition yesterday, leaving Montgomery, Alabama, on her way to Baltimore to perform. Wow. Oh, boy. And then we lost Roberta Flack at the beginning of the week. Whew. It's just been so much. Howardite, full scholarship to Howard University at the age of 13, went at 15. By 19, was directing a whole and producing the whole opera Aida. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant woman, and took all of that and went into the public school system and was teaching at the Banneker School. Ask Richard Smallwood. She taught him music, for example. Oh, it's just so much. When Kathleen Battle needed to rehearse and work out music, they were neighbors in New York. Kathleen Battle used to come over to her home and say, okay, open up the libretto. Hey, Roberta, I need to figure this out. Show me how to do that. Oh, boy. Whew. So much, so much. Angie Stone fighting for her rights as a songwriter par excellence. That was one of the last posts that we saw on her social media last week. She's owed so much money. She should have been in retirement, she said already. But money has been withheld from her by her record company. We're going to fight for her because her children deserve that and her grandchildren. I'm Santita Jackson at Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson as we're looking at these cuts. Talk about injustice. Congressman Jonathan Jackson, 1st Congressional District. We've had a caller. She said, I don't want to be on air, but I need to know what it is that the average person can do about this. 80% of government workers do not work in Washington. They work all over the country, everybody. Congressman Jackson.
Call your U.S. Senator or congressional person on the Senate line, 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. As a member of Congress, we do not have anything to do with the nomination or the interviewing of the cabinet nominees. We should do the same game plan that Mitch McConnell did when President Obama got into the White House. President Obama had the executive branch, had the Senate, and had the Congress under control. Mitch McConnell says, we're going to slow this down. He ended up getting 3 Republicans to become cabinet members in the Obama administration over the CIA, over the Department of Transportation, and over the Department of the Treasury. A United States Senator can slow this process down. They can start to filibuster. So yes, there are things. And also, tune back in to Keep Hope Alive Radio. It's been giving great suggestions, ideas on we should march in the town squares. We're going to be in D.C. for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to tell my colleagues, let's start one there and also come back to the district and have one as well. We need to come out to the federal plazas. Let senators know. Just don't call your Democratic senator. Call the Republican senator. You may not live in their district, but you can still call them. Tell them, hands off my data, hands off my Medicaid.
Congressman, just before you go, because we're seeing massive conflicts of interest. The bright line is with Elon Musk. Because while he's cutting, he's getting government contracts right now. But, you see all of the big tech bros I mean, they're all over this, Congressman, all over it. He's the one we see. It's the ones we don't see, the persons we do not see, who have us so concerned. Or should we not be? Because it seems to me that they're moving everything to AI, automation. Is that what's happening?
Be concerned. When we get elected to office, we have to fill out a petition. Our ballots get on the ballot. The press can view us. We do financial disclosures. Monthly, we have to fill out personal transaction reports called PTR, personal transaction reports. We take an oath of office. None of these employees have done this. I've got a question, and I've asked in committee, who does DOGE work for? They've not been created by the United States Congress. Who are its personnel? Who's paying them? What those security clearance? Do they have any conflicts? There's no transparency in this. And it's just vulgar. It's wrong. There's no check. There's no balance. And the Senate has not stood up to condemn this. And as a member of Congress, they've denied Maxine Waters, myself, and others access to public buildings that we oversee the budget for, as in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, as in the Department of Education. I mean, they're locking people out. And you should be really concerned when you see them take the head of a 4-star general out and in the Joint Chiefs, Mr. Brown, and put in someone less qualified that came out of retirement that didn't have the pre-qualifications for the job. And why is he eliminating all the lawyers within the department? Mr. Pete Hegseth, the now Secretary of Defense, said, because we don't want any roadblocks. So yes, this is a clearly articulated, executable plan that they're operating on, and they're breaking the law. So the Democrats and Democratic senators have filed, not senators, but attorney generals have filed over 100 lawsuits, and he's actually losing the court cases. So stay encouraged, and please call 202-224-3121. Any Republican senator, any Republican congressman, tell them to have a town hall. Tell them to take their hands off of your Medicaid.
Congressman Jonathan Jackson, and boy, oh boy, I love you. We're on our way to Selma, the 60th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery March. We will be right there, but you know what? We need you to get involved. Put on your marching feet and go to Washington. Go to Washington and call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. Let's have Angie Stone take us out. My brother, Jeremy Geiger. Yes.
He is my king, is my one. Yes, he's my father. Yes, he's my son. I can talk to him because he understands everything I go through and everything I am. He's my support system. I can't live without him. The best thing since sliced bread is his kiss, his hugs, his lips, his touch. And I just want the whole world to know about my black brother. I love you, and I'll never try to hurt you. I want you to know that I'm here for you forever true, because you're my black brother.
Your opinion counts.
Oh my gosh, I just cannot believe Angie Stone got out of here yesterday. Diego, sending you so much love. I'm going to call you right after this show is over.
You have 2 callers. You have David from San Francisco and Anita.
Okay. Dr. Deborah Holden?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to have to make sure you are still there.
I'm here.
There's just a lot going on, honey. It's a lot. Girl, look, Angie Stone was on her way to Baltimore. What?
I know.
I am so sick. I got my phone blew up. I was, oh, wow. She's the only person involved in that accident who died. She was the only one who died. The only one.
Yeah,
It's really sad. It's a loss for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and she had really, well, you know what? She did her thing. I'm not going to say what could have happened. What she did was more than enough. And we're going to appreciate her more and more. So I'm just going to leave it right there. But boy, oh boy, that one really, I just said this. I just want to get in bed today after I finish my work. Get some rest. This is a lot. It's a lot to take. But, I'm going to tell you, we're about to feel these cuts. We're about to feel them. We are about to feel them. We have David from San Francisco and Anita from North Carolina. Okay. 866, everybody, 594-HOPE. But we've got a lot going on. Dr. Arnold, I really want you and Dr. Deborah Verholden to really connect. Indeed, she's a gift from Reverend Dr. Yeary. Brilliant young woman, came through Johns Hopkins full ride from start to finish. And just brilliant. Well, she's not a Howardite, but that's all right. We're not going to hold that against her.
But I'm a native Washingtonian. How about that?
No, okay, we got you. DC, don't mean Dodge City. Got you. We got you. That's all right. She had to leave. She left Chocolate City and went on up to Baltimore. But that's all right. We love her. She's our girl. We claim her. But she's someone who we really need to get her involved in these conversations in the public space, because there are very few people on the national and global level who have her expertise. And we don't even know that she's here. And so I want to connect the two of you. I'm going to connect you all.
We'll connect. That sounds great to me.
I'm going to do that. Well, I drive her crazy when I do this, but I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Well, because I know people need to know you. When people do know you and know who you are, they go, "Oh, wait a minute." And they're precious few. We all know the folks who in your position. They ain't but two of you. Yeah. The most.
Right.
He had. Yes, I'm sorry. Please continue.
Oh no, but you sent me down memory lane with talking about Angie Stone. Because I remember, I'm not going to say it was somewhere in the 1980s. I'm not going to say which year, but I remember going to the Star Theater and seeing Luther Vandross, Donny Hathaway, and Roberta Flack. They were singing together.
Oh my gosh!
And the greatest concert I ever went to.
Oh, wait a minute! You're going back to like 78, 79.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that was the beauty, because he was just coming back into public view at that time, just before he died.
Oh yeah.
He was just, because he had that schizophrenia is just,
yeah.
And he was a paranoid schizophrenic. But interestingly, with genius, often you come, there's a price. So stand by, everybody. Okay.
Singing my life.
The iconic Roberta Flack made her transition. 88. What a life. What a life. What a life. We just thank God for her today. Thank God for her today. My Alpha chapter, Delta Sigma Theta sister, my soror, and really a godmother to me. And so I just thank God for her life today. So many of us do. We are all connected in some way to her and her great, great music. Everybody, call us at 866-594-HOPE and let's talk about these Doge cuts. I just saw a headline from CNN. They're saying that Musk's Doge cuts are causing chaos. You know, the conservatives have been on track for this for a long time. They play the long game, everybody. Dr. Deborah Holden, noted epidemiologist, indeed world renowned, former Dean of Global Public Health at NYU, a professor there in epidemiology today, the former director of the Illinois Department of Public Health, Colonel and Dr. Damon Arnold, and Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, catching him before he's got to preach this morning. Brilliant theologian, former air traffic controller. Boy, talk about a Renaissance man. And he is also a practicing attorney doing so many wonderful things. Let me go to the callers before I come back to this wonderful panel. David from San Francisco, bless your heart. How are you?
Santita, yes.
It's been...
1991, when the Soviet Union crashed, and the ruble wasn't worth anything. It was worth negative money. And that was how the oligarchs came to power. Mm-hmm. And I personally, since Trump is so beholden to Putin, I think that Trump's method here is to try to do the same thing and to allow the oligarchs to even come to more power by so ruining the American dollar that everyone will be scattered around. I think, if I remember right, there were 600,000 homeless people in the first winter of 1991, of the fall of the Soviet Union. So by utterly ruining the American dollar, Trump would be able to create a new obedience by having people obey, grasping for crumbs. And so there's an old law of Jubilee. Are you there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course.
Yeah, so Moses had an old law of Jubilee where basically if the money becomes so corrupt that you have to start over again. Everybody starts over again. And if Elon Musk wants to get into the treasury and steal our identities, it creates even more opportunity to do a jubilee, which is something that everybody in the world should have had an opportunity to do centuries ago. So I'm just wondering if there are people out there that have studied jubilee and looked at the way that we can not only protect ourselves, but to give opportunity to the rest of the world and create new freedom.
That is a brilliant observation. Not that many people have. I certainly had not. But I tell you, it's something that's worthwhile. Certainly we do need a deep dive. But I'll tell you this, David. I think these plans did not come out of thin air. Project 2025 did not come out of thin air. And indeed, it was enacted actually in 2022. And, when we look at the refugee crisis and the H-1B crisis, well, you got a tent partnership for refugees. Legacy media won't even report on that. That is something there was a memo of understanding signed by former Secretary of State, then Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, with the creator and founder of Kobani Yogurt, that corporation, to bring in refugees to go to work. It started off with 300 companies. It's now more than 400 companies. I mean, because one has to wonder why Governor Abbott of Texas would not take people back across the border if you don't want to spread this illegal migration, right? No, he put them all over the country so they can go to work for cheap. Have you not been to, like Lowe's and Menards and Home Depot? They're lined up waiting to go to work early in the morning. So there's a lot that's going on here, and I think we need to be mindful. Sending you so much love, David, getting up early in the morning. It's wonderful to hear from you. It's been too long. Let's hear from you, Anita. Anita, what's on your mind today?
Good morning.
Yeah.
The View, the show that comes on ABC, 11 a.m. Standard Eastern Time. You need to get on there and explain to them politics and business and what civil rights stand for and what it stood for, because it's what saved the Union in the end. The fighting didn't, none of that. The slavery didn't. What saved it is people caring about other people is what saved it. And the people that are in charge now, they are grown men that don't know what a budget is and don't know that they're not entitled to other people's money that men work for their family. And another man should not be that scared of taking care of himself that he's going to kill people to make sure he can be taken care of. And that's called men marrying men in human time, okay? And so what's that going to do for women? This is why Kamala was so important in saying, hey, we can't cater to a system where men need men and counting the women out and then raping them for more population. So her movement was very essential. It came from the civil rights movement saying, hey, we got to stop this because someone doesn't know how to stop themselves. And men wanting to have other men take care of them, they are a problem. As you see, no matter how much money they get, they still are not satisfied. And they're creating all kinds of chaos for children. My grandchildren don't have a future with men wanting men to take care of them instead of men taking care of individual families and the population continuing. So guys need to get on The View, Sherry Shepherd, Drew Barrymore, whoever you need to get on there and explain business, politics, and civil rights. Come through that saved everyone.
Well, amen. The challenge is many of them don't want to hear our view on that view. Bless their hearts. No, they yeah, I hear you. But well, I guess I'm just saying that legacy media has a particular point of view, and we have to use the platforms that we've got, and that's okay, right? And we have to spread the word. Let people know about Keep Hope Alive. Let them know about these independent podcasts and radio shows, because that is where you're going to hear your story told. It is. And I hope you'll join me on my show on AM 950 Radio from 6 to 8 a.m. every morning, every weekday morning. But we're also on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, so you can see all the shows. In fact, I'm going to be taping several of them this afternoon. I love you, Miss Anita. Reverend Dr. Uri, I know you're going to have to run and not run, but go and minister this morning. You heard Congressman Jackson say, we do need to march. We need to demonstrate. Really, that's what marches are. We need to demonstrate. We need to demonstrate our, our displeasure. And, people are, you're up there in Baltimore. PG County is the wealthiest Black county in the country. A lot of folks aren't going to be there anymore.
I think I saw an estimate the other day from the governor's office that the anticipated cuts to federal employment in the public sector will impact at least 10,000 people in Prince George's County alone.
Oh my gosh.
That doesn't even count the residual effects of that loss of revenue. And so that's a big deal. But when we talk about this notion of Jubilee, remember Jubilee was a priestly instruction that there would be 7 cycles of 7 years each, where there would be the elimination of debt, and the liberation of those in bondage. Jubilee is not what this administration is looking for, even with a Christian nationalist theme. And so we have to be very clear that in the face of bondage, there must be resistance. And the resistance has to come in a number of forms. We have to be disciplined in not only what we spend, but where we spend it. Mm-hmm. We have to be intentional about when and how and for what we demonstrate. And we also have to be very clear that demonstration takes on a number of forms. Sometimes it's very public, other times it's very subversive. And so we've got to be really, really clear in this moment. Just like there were probably meetings while we slept last night to figure out how they were going to irritate us all day long today, mm-hmm. That we have to be very, very committed to this process and to recognize that what we really need is the formula that would lead to challenging the economic enterprise of America, which would mean we have to overcome the fiction that is race. And if poor black people and poor white people and poor brown people unite and say we are not going to let the oligarchs and those who control the economy take away our wealth and build the next nation on our backs too, then I think you will have the makings of what will lead to not only resistance, but revolution. And from revolution, it will lead to renaissance. And that's where I think this focus must be. And we have to make sure that we start doing it right here and right now. If they don't want us to have money, then we take our money and we spend it elsewhere and we take care of those who take care of us.
Well, because I will tell you, as powerful as Blackout Friday was, the Montgomery bus boycott was a year. I mean, it requires that kind of dedication. The bus company, which was based here in Chicago, they said, look, this is unsustainable. These people are our margin of profit. Something's got to be done. Reverend Urey.
Can learn from our history. They went into the bus boycott thinking it at best might last a couple of weeks. And so what they had to make sure that they had was perseverance that they had not anticipated. We've got to be in, as you mentioned, this long game, this plan to impose this hostility on regular folks in America didn't just start when they came up with this thing called Project 2025. All we need to do is go back and look at its predecessor, which was the contract with America, or the contract on America that Newt Gingrich came up with in the midterm elections of Bill Clinton's first term. And so there's been this intentional resistance ever since the Great Society plan that led to the Civil Rights Act of 64, Voting Rights Act in 65, Medicare and Medicaid came out of the decade of the 60s, fair housing. All of those things that open up doors of opportunity are under literal attack in real time. And if we don't keep that in focus, they're not just going at it because they don't have anything better to do. They know what they're trying to dismantle, and we've got to make sure that we don't let them tear down the house that we built.
I've got about a minute left. Dr. Deborah Verholden, you're living in Baltimore, and we see how people are struggling in America through Baltimore is America in the micro, really. But this is healthcare. This is the social safety net. I mean, what do you foresee with these cuts? Maybe you need to hold on to that, because I've got about a minute left. No, actually, I have a couple of minutes for you. Dr. Deborah Verholden, this is not good. This is bad.
Well, if you know the cuts are coming, people will be forced to make very tough decisions, and they will be costly, right? So I can imagine states will have to make really tough decisions. We just lowered the age for colonoscopy screening to 45. We know the earlier you identify colon cancer and remove polyps and things like that, you can prevent the disease, and you can prevent all that comes with it and the elevated cost. Well, prevention is typically the first thing that we start to cut. But we know that prevention saves money down the road. So we will pay the price for this, and it won't be in this administration, all of it. But we know how this story plays out because we've tried it before. It was transformative when we got the Affordable Care Act approved. It was transformative when we got Medicaid expansion. Healthcare and behavioral healthcare parity was transformative. And the data are clear. We save lives, we improve people's quality of life, and we reduce the amount of morbidity and comorbidity. People were living longer and living better. And we're just going to undo that. It still seems to be landed.
But hold that thought. Hold that thought. Hold that thought. We'll be right back, because it hasn't landed yet. And as you can hear from Congressman Jackson, some people are saying, well, things will be tough for a while, but they'll even out. No, they won't. Many people won't make it through. 866-594-HOPE. Back in just a moment.
fingers, singing my life with these words.
Your opinion.
Whew. Oh, you guys, this is a lot. Oh, you know. Are you all still there? I mean, and I think of Elon Musk and his chainsaw. Lord have mercy. You know, and it's so mean spirited. That's the thing that gets to me. You know, I'm like, you guys, you all are mean. And what I came across this story. I don't know if you all came across it. It happened in Oregon. Has anyone heard of what is it? I guess it would be the SAFE Corporation, the workers' compensation. It's a nonprofit workers' comp insurer. And their CEO took to Facebook to share the message that somebody fired 3 shots through his front door. Okay.
Yeah.
3 shots through his front door, and they still the suspect is still at large. So it the wheels will come off this bad boy in a hot second, because you're not going to have. I mean, look. You have a lot of people who feel that this never could have happened to them, and that will make folks go crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, my brother, he's a practicing psychiatry with the VA and stuff down in Baltimore area, and they gave them a metal plate to fashion to their door, affixed to the door, because they're worried about active shooter incidents.
That is crazy.
This is heading from a federal department, hands them a metal plate to put on the door.
No, I mean, but they're not talking about that. I mean, and I just see these people walking around. I'm like, boy, you don't understand. There are a lot of people who are angry out here. Hurt, disappointed, but they are angry because they see these people getting richer and richer and richer. And I am not for violence, everybody. I can't justify it. I really can't. That having been said, you can't continue to push people like this. You can't do that. And that is what is happening.
Jesse Jackson.
That's one thing I want to tell Congressman.
Well, hold that thought, because you make this point. We're about to come back up, but I want Dr. Deborah Holden finish her point, because I cut her off before she got off. Oh.
The closer I get to you, the more you make me see. Like giving me all you got. Your love has captured me. Sweeter than sweeter love grows. Heaven's there for those who fool the tricks of time. With the hearts of love divine, true love in a special way.
Whew. Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, resting in power and creating the most angelic music we can imagine in heaven together. She made her transition at the beginning of the week. Love you so much, Roberta Flack. Love you, love you, love you with all of my heart for so many reasons. I sang backup with her for 5 years. Known her for so many. She gave me a Steinway piano when I was 8. Will always love her. And thank her for just being a guiding light in my life. I just have to say that. And Angie Stone, whose music has been so empowering, whose life has been so empowering, this indomitable force of light and life, had just given a magnificent concert. I'd spoken with a friend who actually was at her concert in Alabama. Killed yesterday in a car wreck, trying to get to Baltimore for another performance. She was the only one whose life was taken. Oh my gosh. Heartbreaking, but boy, oh boy, what magnificent music she left behind. Black Diamond, oh my goodness, so much. And she was fighting for her royalties, which her record company had tried to, they had withheld them from her. They were trying to steal them from her, and she had gone public with that over the past week and a half or so. And so we need to fight for justice for Angie Stone because she deserves that. And she deserves all of that from all of us who have loved her music and who have loved her so. So, everybody, call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Dr. Deborah Verholden, I wanted you to be able to finish your point before we pivoted to Dr. Damon Arnold. And there's just so much going on, Dr. Deborah Verholden, really. And, people are now just trying to figure out what to do. I want you to call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. But, you've got COVID showed us, and you were on my show every single day. I thank you so much because, you were a dean at a medical school, but you took your time to reassure the public and to give us information and to bring us Dr. Shanina Knighton, this infection preventionist, just to get us through the pandemic when it was early on. And thank you, Reverend Dr. Yuri, for bringing her to my attention. And she's become a sister beloved, baby sister beloved, I must say. And just where do you see all of this? This is just so cruel, Dr. Deborah Verholden. It's so cruel.
Always striking for me is I've seen the sort of social media posts and things like that of people who voted for this administration who now are impacted. This plan was always laid out, right? What is happening is coming to fruition. All that was promised. Yeah. So we had 4 years of what we had, and then our current president had 4 years to get the strategy together to actually understand what powers you do and do not have. Said, this is what I'm going to do, and now is doing it. So the thing that people can do is they can actually take heed and use their vote and their voice for the things that matter. I think people turned a blind ear and a blind eye to mass deportation, to, when you say cuts in government waste, that sounds good conceptually. But then you got to pick at that and say, what does that mean? What types of government waste are we talking about? What types of things are going to be cut? If you've ever applied for Social Security disability, it is a lengthy process. My mother became disabled. She applied for Social Security disability. It took 3 years.
Ooh.
Now, she ended up having to get an attorney. This is a standard part of the process, right? She ended up having to get an attorney. And then when she was approved, her benefits were retroactive to the date that she had applied. But what was she supposed to do in the 3 years while she was unable to work, disabled, and without resources, even though she had worked her entire life and it's a benefit that she was entitled to? So, these systems are not perfect already, but these are things that we said as a society and as a people that matter. So if you start cutting those funds, you do blanket cuts on those staff, how long will it take people? And then what's your alternative? Do you go back to work when you're really not in a position to work in the interim? Do you just become homeless? Do you steal? But this is what people voted for. And then they get that anger and upset, and it becomes misplaced. And they do things like kill healthcare CEOs. Healthcare CEOs are operating within the confines that our lawmakers set for them to operate in. They should be harassing their lawmakers, not gunning down healthcare CEOs. They should not be worried about just their vote, but also rallying the votes of their constituency to make sure that the people in their universe understand, if you vote for this person, my Medicaid is at risk. These cuts to NIH, do you know how many people's family members are in active and ongoing cancer trials and the grants will have the word disparity or health equity in the title, all of those grants are on the chopping block. All of them. They have now a master list of all grants that have the word disparity, equity, diversity, all of that in the keywords, the title, or the abstract. And what many of our colleagues did is they said, oh, this is now a priority. We call them health equity tourists. They aren't steeped in the work of health equity. They don't know the language, but through the system of privilege and all of that, they've been in the NIH pipeline for years and years and years. And so they started reframing their work this way. Now, I didn't appreciate people who don't know the work and don't appreciate the work jumping in and jumping to the forefront of it, because they do good work, but it's not equity focused. But we do need, innovation in cancer detection and treatment and like that. And most of those projects are now, probably in the next month, going to get a cease and desist. So people's loved ones in these cancer trials who are benefiting from this cutting edge science and medicine and like that are going to be impacted. People didn't think this stuff through, and now they're up in arms, but they're directing their anger at the wrong people. This is what you voted for.
Everybody, let's talk about this, because also the oligarchs, they, Senator Dick Durbin, and of course he's our senator, Dr. Arnold, he said during the banking crisis, when Wall Street was taking their last pound of flesh from us in 2008, he said, look, and they said, I saw him described in this article, they said he was almost slumped. He said, look, let's be honest, the bankers run the place. Because while the lawmakers, absolutely, Dr. Verholden, they absolutely have to vote, we keep looking at the lobbyists. No, you need to look at these corporations. They're the ones who hire the lobbyists, who then push the lawmakers. That's why Reverend Jackson years ago started buying stock in corporations. Why? So that he could be a stockholder and attend the stock meetings, so he could confront the CEOs and people in the C-suite about their policies. We have to think this through, because we're not reinventing the wheel here. Protest is as old as before. It existed before the founding of the Republic, and there's some people who've been the best at it. And we're going to have to do that in order to save ourselves. I mean, as someone who has headed up one of the largest statewide health agencies in the country, what do you foresee as this money gets withdrawn? I mean, how do you make a budget, Dr. Arnold? I mean, how do you compensate for this with all of this, with the loss of this funding?
Well, but luckily we have, right now we have a governor who is actually very supportive of DEI, really against the institutional practices that are going on in DC right now. So we are at a point where, Governor Pritzker is really trying to push to make sure everything stays intact, that we help people throughout the state. And one of the things is that we haven't really covered it yet, is the Affordable Care Act expansion in 2010. And what that did was it would actually allow the expansion of Medicare, Medicaid, throughout the state. And that is one of the targets that Trump has right now, is to get rid of the ACA. So those states that did not participate in the expansion, mostly Republican states, although some of them did expand under the ACA. There was a famous court case in the Supreme Court in 2011. It was National Federation of Independent Business versus Sebelius. So Secretary Sebelius was over HHS at that point. And what they did was say, well, states can use their pre-ACA Medicaid eligibility standards and receive previously established levels of federal Medicaid. So they protected their Medicaid federal input, even though they were not following the ACA. So once the ACA is removed, not only is Medicare threatened by direct cuts to Medicaid and Medicare directly, but also due to the expansion that's going to be taken away as well. So states are going to be in a much worse state. Most of these states right now, about 80% of people who are on Medicaid are enrolled in managed care organizations, the MCOs. So the MCOs actually work for the state. They are private entities that the state contracts with in order to distribute money through Medicaid and Medicare. And one of the problems is that we have a shrinking number of MCOs in some states. They are also, confronting a lot of bureaucratic entanglements, to their effective operation. You have a lot of not-for-profit organizations, as was being alluded to by Deborah, Verholden. She actually, we talk about having RFK Jr. in place. He has no merit. Maybe we should put someone in merit like a Deborah Verholden, right?
Yes.
Over an agency that is actually helping people.
Yes.
If they want to have a Christian nationalism that's been brought up before, well, maybe the Christians should be looking at poverty as being a disease in the country. Children being unvaccinated as a disease in the country, rather than going under some obscure viewpoint that I don't think Christ being on earth would be saying, let's look at this first. So I really question their basis of Christianity, whether they really are reading the same Bible I'm reading and not the Donald Trump Bible with the Constitution in it. So I think that we are actually facing a time where there could be direct damage. And one of the things that really got me angry was when Elon Musk said, we make mistakes and then we'll correct those mistakes. So for U.S. aid, for example, U.S. aid was withdrawn and the funding was stopped. And then he said, we corrected that situation. We turned funding back on. But what he didn't tell you is they had already dismantled the USAID system. So the funds were effectively nothing. They were nullified. They could not use them because they had fired so many people in the USAID system already. And the Republicans, we have to be very careful about how they phrase things, because as we are unfolding the devastation within the country from the actions that they are taking right now, we have to remember one thing. For about 3 weeks, they had said, they spent $50 million on condoms in Gaza, right? And they said that, these were going to Hamas and they were going to Al Qaeda, and the Republicans beat this to death on the media, right? Guess what? The $50 million that USAID spent on condoms went to Gaza in Mozambique. There are two Gazas. They were not sent to the Middle East. They were sent to Mozambique in Africa that has the 5th highest level of HIV transmission. They were trying to prevent the spread of an infectious disease that would have devastated that country. So we have to be very careful when we listen to what they're putting out there in the media, the misinformation and disinformation about vaccine effectiveness. For example, measles is 90% transmission rate. If you come across someone and you're unvaccinated, 90% chance that you will pick up that virus and you will become sick with the measles virus, which kills people. So we have to be very careful about the messaging that's going on and making sure we have accurate information from scientifically based people who understand what they've been studying, epidemiologists, like Dr. Verholden. We need to be listening to people that understand the impact of withdrawing healthcare services from our community. It is a death sentence for some people that they are pronouncing. I just implore fellow veterans to stand up against a domestic enemy. We took an oath to fight against foreign and domestic enemies. Right now, we have a domestic enemy that is trying to kill the American people, to take away their jobs, to leave them abject poverty, and it's at the expense of selling a $5 million gold citizen card overseas to an oligarch to come over here and to do even more devastation. Very careful about what we're looking at and the devastation that these things are doing. They're already doing harm that is irreparable. So we don't need to go further down that path.
Yeah. Reverend Dr. Yuri, are you still there? What about this? I've got about 2 minutes. What about this $5 million gold card to become a citizen?
Well, citizenship is for sale. It always has been. And so you can't come here if you are fleeing for your safety, or if you are seeking asylum or refuge from natural disaster, or if you have family members here that you just want to be with. But you can get a special privilege. That's how you know that the oligarchy has come. The president actually says, I'm going to create a special class of migrant that if you can pay the price, I'm going to give you a preferred pathway to citizenship. He is changing the dynamic. Let's not lose sight of the fact that Elon Musk's family background is from Dutch South Africa, and that in the apartheid regime, which was based upon the Plessy versus Ferguson model of the United States, it was land control based on racial preference to create a wealth disparity so that the power and the dominance would be on those who own land. Well, where did we get that from? My goodness. It's in the Constitution that only male landowners could vote early on in this country. So what is he doing? He is reshaping and reframing the face and the image of America based on these principles that they claim are based on the Bible or Christianity. I'm not sure which Sunday school they went to. But in the course of looking at all of this, these are all not just specious ideas. He is throwing out warning signs. These are flares going up in the middle of the night to tell us that the paradigm is not shifting, it has shifted. And he has a complicit Congress to actually back him up. The Republicans are controlling all of the branches of government, including the thinking on the Supreme Court. What do we do now if we don't resist? And so he's selling a gold card, but what he's really selling is he's selling the rest of us down the river and making sure that the new labor economy is going to benefit those who can get black jobs, brown jobs, but it's still going to be white money.
No question. I mean, let us not forget 38,000 Ukrainians were brought to Chicago at the beginning of the conflict, And yet, everyone is upset about the brown people coming, the black people coming. Wow. Get closing thoughts here on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Hope you will meet us at Rainbow Push, at Operation Push at the Saturday Morning Forum every Saturday. It is fantastic. You're going to get the great information there at 930 East 50th Street. Get there about 9:30. We go to about 11:30. I promise you, you will be inspired. Hope you'll meet me on AM 950 Radio, 6 to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, and the Santita Jackson Show. You can see all the shows there and this wonderful cast of characters. Closing thoughts in just a minute.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here.
Oh, you guys, this is a lot. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
No, we haven't seen anything, quite frankly. We'll see. But, the fact is now it's people are stirring because things have been off the rails for quite some time. It's just now, we've been on a downward spiral for some time. Were that not the case, Dr. King would not have prophesied to us 60 years ago. And here we are. We are here. We're where he said we were going to end up if we didn't get our priorities together. So here we are. When Joe Biden kept saying that this is not who we are, I was like, oh, contraire, mon frere. This is who we are, darling.
Yeah.
No, this is who we are. And oh boy. Oof.
All right, Santita, I got to go deal with the day job.
Well, now there you go. We and save some souls for Christ.
Well, the Lord has saved the soul. I'm going to save the behind. Have a good day.
You know, Lord, help him. Help him. Help him. The blasphemer. The blasphemer. Oh, my goodness. Hold on. Find my, the blasphemer gonna save some behind. You need to save some souls. Yeah, you can't use those terms on Sunday. It's too much, but it's true.
I guess you need to have the behind to be able to go.
Let me tell you. Well, something. I'm telling you, this is something. This is, but I think the upside for me is that people are stirring. But I'm going to connect you and Dr. Verholden.
Oh, great.
She's doing a lot, and she's also dealing with a lot. Dr. Verholden.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that he would be. I think this is Dr. Arnold is one of our dearest friends, one of the closest people to us. He'd be a good person for you to talk to about what you have been dealing with.
Okay.
Because he really understands folks and understands politics.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to connect you because she really needs some guidance, Dr. Arnold.
Oh, fine.
Well, because the thing is, bottom line, they're trying to push all of us out.
Oh, yeah. It's happening everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And so she needs we've got to put our arms around her. But we also have to let people know that someone as esteemed as Dr. Verholden exists.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a
okay, you just went out. Uh-oh.
Oh, there's definite.
Yeah, 40 seconds.
And then okay, no worries.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna connect you all by text.
Okay, yeah. And this is
now.
my first and he left mine.
Okay. I'm gonna do that right now. I don't want you all to. I want you to get benefit from knowing.
Yeah. 20 seconds.
Okay, stand by.
What I've been hearing about too, Santina, is that federal employees who are being let go,
coming up at
at least in the defensive.
Well, no, hold that thought, because I'm gonna stay on for a hot second.
4, 3, 2, 1, live.
Hey, everybody, sending you so much love today from Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Hope you'll stay in touch with us at Rainbow Push throughout the week at 773 Freedom. Meet us at Rainbow Push on Saturdays for the Push Forum at 930 East 50th Street and on the Word Network and on WJYS locally in Chicago. But the Word Network is the largest urban religious network in the country. So please, from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time every Saturday. And meet me on the Santita Jackson Show, please, on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And hey, you've heard a lot of things today. You've gotten a lot of information. You've gotten a lot of education. Now you need to remember to keep hope alive. God bless you. All right. Now you can bring them up. Okay. I'm going to connect the two of you. What you going to say something, Dr. Arnold, before I disconnect everyone from all the social media?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I was thinking about was the issue of people who lost their jobs in the federal government. What I'm hearing is that when they go to apply for jobs in the private sector, some private sector businesses are not bringing them aboard because they are fearful that they have to use a terrible term, blackballed by the federal government that they should not be trustworthy in employment because they're against the Trump administration.
Oh, yeah.
So that is going on as well. So that means that you can't even look for a job outside in the private sector if they are trying to blackball you.
You know, we have to sadly expect that.
Okay.
And because it's the environment, we've lived through this before, quite frankly.
Right.
And I think that we had gotten very comfortable and softened because we act as if our rights were just given to us. You know, you woke up one day and you could use whatever restroom you wanted. You woke up one day, you went to school, and you applied for a job. You didn't even think about it. You woke up one day, you had a black president. You woke up one day, and you no. I have to remind people that a whole lot of people took personal insults. They lost their lives, and on and on and on, and never got the fruit that they give to the imperialists.
Yes.
You know, and so I have to remind people all the time because they also think that Reverend ran for president for the Democratic Party. No, we had to fight the Democratic Party in Chicago. This was for democracy. You had black Republicans for Jesse Jackson. Okay? And
Right.
And you had black Republicans for Jesse Jackson because you did not, black folks at that time were absolutely not considered by either party.
Correct.
So he completely changed. And third party? No. The top tier third party candidates, as white liberals are wont to do, ignored black people too. So this was a complete game. You know that. And it changed. I mean, it opened the door for the Cosby Show. The Cosby Show happened in '84. I mean, it was just, there was so much that was going on. You had a black woman who was you had a black man go to space, a black woman Miss America, all this stuff in the space of a year. No, we have been fighting and agitating and pushing. You had the black man who was the biggest entertainer in the world, Michael Jackson, all this stuff. There's just, and they didn't want to pay him his money.
Yes.
If Michael Jackson had been paid by Sony what he was owed, he would have bankrupted the company. I'm going to say that one more time for everybody. When Michael was renegotiating his contract, Sony knew that if they gave him what he was due, he would have bankrupted the company.
Wow.
Michael sold more than 1 billion records in his lifetime. No one did that. Y'all talk about the Beatles all you want, and I love them. But anyone, the only person in the world who could release an album, maybe Prince, entitled Bad, that no one would laugh at, is Michael Jackson, because he was bad.
Yeah.
he was the best. He was the best. When that album came out, you didn't laugh, you bought it.
Yep.
So let me get out of here. Y'all need to be clear. So when I see Angie Stone, literally a week before she's killed, on social media saying, "Wait a minute," because she has written some massive hits, massive. She was a master songwriter, and she said, I could have been in retirement 20 years ago." She was on the road because she wasn't getting her money, everybody. And now her son, daughter, and grandchildren are without her because she had to work double time. Well, I've got Taylor Swift, love her, God bless her, and I'm happy for her success. But I mean, wait a minute. You got all these folks who get all these opportunities and we're still on a plantation. Really?
Well, one thing, Santino, about that is that people aren't talking about it, but when they say that people who benefited the most from DEI were white women, right? But it's not just DEI benefited from, it was white supremacy and white privilege along with DEI.
Yes. Oh. And because they won't tell the story, the reason you got a white woman on the Democratic ticket was because Reverend advocated for it, and they never said thank you. More than that, they would not support our 4 minority planks at the 84 convention.
Yeah.
Reverend was the first and only candidate, top tier candidate, who pledged at the beginning, I will have a woman on the ticket. The eventual nominee, they wouldn't commit to it. They were like, no. Yeah, everything good and great that has made this country democratic, fair, we've done it. Black people have done it. And of course, other people have benefited from it. But that does not mean, as I'm watching many African Americans who are working with the Republicans, as is and you can do that. I am not upset with you about that, but get the story straight. You keep saying the DEI only benefited somebody else. Everything that we do benefits everybody else, but it benefits us first, whether we know it, because we're at the back of the line.
That's right.
You argue for DEI, and to show you how the thinking is, we argue for DEI, we argue for affirmative action, then you get into the job, you get into the school, and you say, oh, don't call me an affirmative action baby. Don't say that I'm a DEI hire. Yes, you are. And you ought to be proud of that. Well, guess what? Now you don't have it. You don't have affirmative action, the root, and you don't have the fruit, DEI. So now let's see. Since you're the first smart Black person or woman, or physically or some physically challenged person who's ever been born, it sickens me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're all beneficiaries of that. And, I had with the AMA, the JAMA, it's the Journal of American Medical Association, and I had written a note to them because I was so dismayed about one of the comments that was in, and it was written by a guy who was from Indian ancestry, right, from India. And he said, the problem with the communities is that those people need to pick themselves up and go to school and learn more and be more proactive and that kind of thing. And the article that I sent them, and it got rejected 4 times, they never put it in there. But, because I said that that person that just said that about those people would have been hung at O'Hare Airport when he landed if those people hadn't set up the country that he could come to.
How about that part?
Hey.
I mean, well, they're gonna have their moment. I don't know why they weren't listening when that Marco Elez from Doge, who said, I was a racist before it was cool. He also went on to disparage Indian Americans, and it was J.D. Vance who advocated for him to get his job back. He's married to an Indian woman. Really?
Right.
Well, I'm not gonna get into people's business, but that just does not sound right to me. Well, everybody's got their cross to bear. But I wish my husband would come home after someone called me the N-word. He wouldn't get in the door unless someone had been lit up.
Oh yeah.
You wouldn't be advocating for him to get a job again. I tell you that much. Not and come home to me. But then I have pride.
Right. And that's what we need to have is, and we need to have pride for each other too. Because if you see someone being, berated and all that, you need to do something. I mean, I was young when I did this, but I remember being in high school, and this one instructor, he used to teach French, but he was a racist kind of guy, and he